everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for the Commonwealth University Masters of Social Work Virtual Information Session. My name is Tom Kresh. I'm our Director of Graduate Admissions, and I will be the host for tonight. We appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule to join us to learn more about your potential experience in our MSW program. Certainly have a lot to offer, a lot to talk about tonight, and it should be a great opportunity to, again, preview your experience. The event should take between 30 and 40 minutes. This is being recorded, so whether you're watching live or watching the recording, again, thank you for joining us to be able to learn more about the program. If you have any questions, if you could please put them into the Q&A, we will address the questions at the end of the presentation, and then we'll open it up to an open Q&A. But before we go any further, if the rest of our hosts wouldn't mind introducing themselves, so we can start with Dr. Luca Becce.
Hi, everyone. I am so happy to be here. This is my first virtual event as program director, and I'm so excited that it is well attended. If you see my eyes drifting, I'm not texting. I am watching my cat that is doing everything to disrupt this session. She is a big cat, and I hope she stays down, but she's already blocking and doing stuff. So anyway, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Luca Becce. And Dr. Luca Becce, what is your area of research, any area of specialty on top of your program directorship responsibility?
Yes, and besides my cat, my specialty is substance use disorders and minority populations, specifically focusing on women and Hispanic and Black communities and the delivery of services. I have published in the area of alcohol treatment and opioid use disorder.
Great, thank you. Thank you. And Professor Carson.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. I am Tammy Carson. I am the MSW Field Director. I've been with Bloomsburg on and off since 2015. Very excited to have such a large group with us. I do see a few familiar names. I also am pretty sure I know who the person was that said they were from Virginia. So hello, glad you're here. I'm glad everybody's here and looking forward to your questions, and hopefully we give you the information that you need.
Great. Thank you, Professor Carson. And Chelsea.
Chelsea Dwyer. I am the Assistant Director of Admissions for graduate and undergraduate.
Great, thank you. So we can go ahead and kick off the presentation. I am going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see here. And really, Dr. Luca Becce, Professor Carson, as we're looking at these opportunities for students to enroll in graduate school, the first question that they're probably wondering is, well, why would I want to do an MSW? It's going to be time. It's going to be a lot of work. Why would I want to do this?
I love this question. If I can jump in, I remember at the last one I attended, I said, who wants a Cadillac? Who wants a BMW? Because that's what the MSW degree is. It is the BMW, the Mercedes degrees of master's degrees. We are a generalist program, and we prepare students to do anything in the field from micro to macro practice. It is a diverse degree, so it gives you an opportunity to try different aspects of social work. Not just, I find that sometimes people think that social work is about taking children from their parents, and social work is such a diverse field. I worked in a department of psychologists for 9 years, and I supervised master's and PhD students, and they would ask me, do you ever regret your social work degree? And not once have I ever regretted getting this degree. I have done so much with this degree. And so it's not even a pitch, you guys. It's like, if you want a great degree with opportunities that you might not even be able to conceptualize right now, this is a degree for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll jump in real quick as well. My undergrad degree is not in social work. I actually started college as a music education major, did not end up with that degree, but really wasn't sure what I wanted to do when I was finished with the degree that I did get. And I was fortunate to have professors in undergrad and advisors to kind of guide me toward the MSW. And I'm so thankful for all the reasons Dr. Luca Becce already mentioned. I've done a variety of things throughout my career. Prior to getting into higher ed, I was a clinician, I was a program director, I did supervision. So And now I've worked in higher ed for the last, I won't tell you how many years. But it's really been a great option for me. It's flexible, it's diverse. Really any area of practice that you want to get into, we're it.
Yeah, and later on in the presentation too, we will talk more about like from a professional standpoint, like what jobs are unlocked by having the MSW. What is the pay increase possibly like by having the MSW? Because again, this is an investment, right? And that's how you really want to look at it. But there will certainly be more to follow along there. So for students where this may be their first time learning about the program, their first time engaging or previewing our MSW program, Dr. Lucabeccia, could you walk us through just the quick program overview?
So let's start with, we are an accredited program. I know that there were some rumors that we were not yet accredited. We are fully accredited, which means that upon graduation, you will be eligible to sit for the licensure exam. And currently we have students that are graduating in May, and I have signed quite a few verification forms on their behalf with the department or the Pennsylvania Department of what's it called, PALS of licensing, the licensing board. And so you're eligible even in your last semester. So that's what it makes you, it's licensed. So that's the great advantage of being accredited. And we can talk more about that later. If you have a BSW degree and you have a good GPA, it will take you about 1 year to finish your degree. If you decide to go full time, it's 36 credits. Now, I also want to say, because I've spoken to a few of you that are on this chat, that even if you're not meeting the GPA that we are asking for, apply anyway, because we look at the applicants as a whole, and we don't just look at your GPA. Your GPA is just one part of who you are. We look at the whole application, because as social workers, we know that the person is more than just one metric. The traditional program, if you don't have a BSW, still a good deal. It's 60 credits. You can do that in 2 years. And same thing, if you're not meeting that GPA, we're looking at it. And some folks have said, well, I have a degree in psychology. Will I fit in? Absolutely, you will fit in. I even say it's the heart of a social worker. The heart and soul of a social worker is really what we're looking for. So I agree with the next point, that it is a great fit for any student, for students from any undergraduate major. We have one student that comes to mind. He was a poli-sci major. He was in law school, dropped out of law school, came to our program and said, has never looked back. And he just really loved the MSW, and he is currently working. And also no regrets. In fact, we often, right now he sits on our advisory board, and he will be at another virtual event with us. Our program is flexible. We understand that this is a huge commitment. And I just said to you, I said, if you want a BMW, if you want a Mercedes, this is the degree to get. And I don't mean materialistic. I mean, as far as the value of this degree, there are so many options for you. And we are willing to work with students, and we're willing to work with students even once they've been accepted. We may have had a student or two that maybe struggled, maybe was trying to something in, who doesn't have things happening in life, that maybe something happened in their lives and they wanted to drop out, and we will work with you to keep you from dropping out, to keep you going forward and staying focused on your goals. So we're working, Tammy and I probably see too much of each other. We're constantly working on making this even more flexible and doable for students. And we do start our traditional program starting fall 2025. For those of you that maybe are just wrapping up your BSW, or maybe some of you just want the summer off. Who doesn't want their summer off? So we're starting in the fall semester, but maybe some of you want to get a head start. We're offering 2 electives this summer, and that is optional.
So, and I know one of the more common questions that we get on the front end of things is, all right, if I go into the MSW, I guess that means I better have the bachelor's of social work. Otherwise, I won't be qualified to apply. And that is absolutely not the case. We'll have a number of really qualified students and great applicants and successful future social workers coming with other degree programs. Dr. Lucabeccia, what are some of the more common undergrad programs other than social work that you see students applying with?
Well, I mentioned one poli-sci, probably psychology, I would say is our is one of our top contenders. Sociology, probably some. I think we've had some education, and we've also, interestingly enough, had folks from another graduate program transfer over into our graduate program. I can't stress enough to all of you, and that the degree in and of itself, that's what the term generalist is. It prepares you to work with different populations. It prepares you to work at different levels of practice, and that's the idea. And that's why it's so fitting for any, regardless of your undergraduate major. And even if you majored in math, even if you majored in something that you might think it doesn't fit. My husband is a physicist, and he and I do research together. So if you can imagine how that combines, so it really is a great degree for not only our BSWs, but for any of you that really want to make a difference in people's lives.
Great.
We even had an engineer come through our program with a minor in Russian.
I forgot. I always forget about it. Yes.
Now, Professor Carson, in your experience, what is the experience like for students who don't have a BSW coming into the MSW? I know they're going to take some additional credits, but what is the onboarding process like? What is the transition process like? Can you explain that a little more?
Well, when we start talking about the courses, which I think might be the next slide,
Yes.
you'll see kind of the differences there. And the first slide is really that advanced standing one, which is the folks that come in with the BSW. When the students come in without an undergrad degree in social work, that whole first year is basically bringing them up to speed where the advanced standing students are starting. So they're getting all of that same foundation coursework, but it is at a graduate level. So, and because we start off in a cohort model, all of the students that are in those foundational courses that we'll look at, everybody's coming in blank slate. It doesn't matter what your background is, everybody's starting at the same place.
Mm-hmm. No, that is good to know. Thank you. And again, Dr. Lucabeche, this does get us to the curriculum, and we're going to start with the advanced standing curriculum. Can you walk us through the coursework that students may be taking in the program?
So I think Professor Carson explained it very well. We can go to the next one to see just the difference, because she's correct. In this first year, you're catching up to where the advanced students are starting. So we are providing you with a great solid foundation in social work, in social work practice. And if you notice the courses, we have individuals, we have families and groups, we have organizations, so that's that generalist that we're looking at. So we're not just looking at different levels of practice, but we're looking at different types. So we're looking at how is it different to work within an organization? But somebody might in the audience might be saying, well, I don't want to do individual one-on-one. That's okay. We can prepare you to work in policy. That law student that I talked about, he is a chief county clerk right now. So he really did something with this degree, and does not do individual, but he does organizations and he works within communities. And so that's the major difference. And you'll see that the two cohorts actually meet, because the second part of that, you'll see they're taking the same classes then, advanced practice with individuals, advanced practice. So it really is a solid curriculum that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that is good to know. And would you be able to speak a little bit about the differences between the undergraduate courses and the graduate level courses? I know obviously the expectations are higher, more reading, more writing, more research, I would imagine. What are the course differences?
So I think, and I always say to my students, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. So you're not writing bigger papers, you're writing more substantive papers. We're looking for quality, we're looking for critical thought. So at the graduate level, we're looking for that ability to conceptualize that content in a way that you weren't necessarily conceptualizing at the undergrad. The undergrad, you were looking at a theory, you were applying it, it was more concrete. I can give you an example. Last night, I introduced some theories in my class. I'm teaching social identities and equalities. And what I'm having students do is create a podcast explaining the theory and applying it to a real life example of what they've witnessed. And that's the kind of thinking that we expect at a graduate level. And that's one of the biggest differences that I see from undergrad to grad.
Professor Carson, do you have anything to add?
No, I think she covered it.
Okay. That is good to know. And now in terms of the coursework, I know we talk about it's a hybrid delivery. Can you talk about or explain a little more about what the actual coursework delivery is? Is it online? Is it in person? Is it some are online, some are in person? The classes are in the evening, the classes are during the day. Can you talk a little more about that?
So I'm glad you asked a difficult question. And this one I'm going to start, and Professor Carson will jump in. So we are transitioning to a fully online program. Why can't we say that that we are online right now? It's our accreditation. So our accreditation, it's not as simple as filling out an application and checking a box and saying that, yes, we're online right now. So we are in the process of completing the paperwork, or what is it, 100 pages? That's how big the paperwork is, and to transition into online. And until our target date for fully online will be January 2026. Until such time, we can absolutely offer hybrid classes. And some of you in the audience, I meant what I said. For fall semester, they're all remote, they're all mixed remote, meaning that all the courses that are scheduled for fall will be taught a combination of synchronous and asynchronous, and you will know in advance which classes are going to be synchronous and which classes will be asynchronous. One course is hybrid, meaning half face-to-face, half online. Do not worry. If you cannot do that, we will work with you. And that's what I've been telling students, is that we will work with you. If you say to us, I'm in Virginia, I can't come in for once a week. We got you. That's not going to be a deal breaker, because it's just this semester, and we're fully anticipating that by January 2026, that's a safe bet that we will be able to say we are 100% online. Professor Carson, jump in.
Yeah, and as Dr. Lukovic said, it really is an issue with our accrediting body. They do have, when we were accredited, which came through in July, we were accredited as an in-person program, which allows us to teach up to 50% of our coursework online. In order to transition to promoting an online program, we have to go through another process with our accrediting body, which is certainly not as extensive as what we already did, but it does take a little bit of time. So it will be January until we can pronounce that we are fully online. But as Dr. Lukovic said, right now, if that is something that you need, we will work with you.
That is very good to know. I know we've had a lot of questions about that in the Q&A in the chat. So thank you for that. I think that is good to know. And then again, that gets us to the field experience. I know this is typically the culminating or the capstone experience for the MSW. And I think this is what is so great too, is you're not going to walk away overeducated, but underprepared. Right, because you're going to have these experiences built into the program. You can't graduate without it. So as soon as you cross the graduation stage, you're ready to make an impact. You know exactly what you're doing. So can you talk more about the field experience and what the expectations are?
Yeah, and I know that some of the questions that have popped up in the chat and in Q&A are related to field, so they usually are. I want to start by saying that we are very flexible in how we offer our field placements, and we are becoming more flexible. To start off, our accrediting body requires that everybody that walks out of an MSW program has completed 900 total hours of practicum. If you are coming in with a BSW already, you've already done at least 400 of those hours. So you can knock those 400 off and you will do 500. For students who are coming in and need to do the full 2-year option, you will do those 900 hours. 400 at the generalist level, 500 at the specialization level. We, up until now, have only offered a traditional fall spring option for people to do their field placement. Moving forward, starting this upcoming year, so the year that a lot of you are going to be applying for, there are 3 different options for field. You can do traditional fall spring if you are coming in advanced standing. You can do spring summer, which you can do as an advanced standing student, and this is the option that will be the best for a 2-year generalist year student. You also have the option to do a summer block placement. So if anybody out there is a teacher or works in an educational setting or has some other reason why you may not be able to do a traditional field placement, you also have the option to do that summer block field placement. The only thing to keep in mind is that you do have to put those 400 or 500 hours into that summer block placement. So instead of doing somewhere between 12 and 18 hours per week across 2 semesters, you're going to be doing basically a full-time job. So it would be 30 to 40 hours per week to be able to get that summer block placement completed. You will have supervision with an MSW. That is a requirement of our accrediting body. If there is not an MSW in your agency, we will work with you to either assign you to a faculty person or to somebody else to work with you and provide that additional supervision. I know a lot of the questions that typically come up, and I believe there were at least 2 people that asked in the chat window about employment-based field. Yes, as long as your agency is an approved agency and they are willing to allow you to do your field placement in your work setting, that is something that we can put together. There is some additional planning required, of course, and an additional approval process, but it is something that that we're permitted to do. We actually have a lot of students right now who are doing a work-based placement of some sort. So yeah, if you have a job now or you're going into one and you don't want to be adding 20 additional hours a week, this is something that we can talk about and make those plans with your agency. And then I have a couple of options listed there in terms of agencies that we work with, types of agencies that we work with.
And Professor Carson, so when students are identifying their field experience, is that a collaborative process that it would be you working with the student to find the right fit, or is it the student just has to figure it out?
No, we absolutely collaborate with the student. There's no expectation that they're completely on their own. It makes it easier for all of us, both for the student, for the agency, and for me, if we are working together. Now, if a student already has an identified agency, great. I'll look and check to make sure that they're an approved agency. If they're not, I'll go through the process with that agency. So certainly, like, I'm not going to just throw a student into an agency sight unseen, but we work together to put that together for everyone.
That is great. That is great. Thank you. And then the CWEL program, can you walk the audience through what the CWEL
Yeah,
program is?
so we are not approved with CWEL yet. We were expecting to be approved with them for this coming year because of changing our program over to eventually being online. There were some additional steps that we need to take with them as well, but I'm fully expecting that we should be on board with them, if not by fall, by January. So if you're not familiar with CWEL, if you're working in a child welfare agency within the state of Pennsylvania, there may be funding through your agency and the University of Pittsburgh to help you pay for your additional schooling. And there's all kinds of information on Pitt's website if anybody wants to look that up. We also are actually looking at working with another organization that does a similar program with mental health. That is something that's kind of out of my wheelhouse, but there is a possibility of that coming through. It's through a rural health program across the state of Pennsylvania.
That's good to know. Thank you. And then the career options, which I would imagine are going to be varied, but everything you hear, and I'm sure you can substantiate this, Dr. Lucavece, is social workers are going to be in tremendously high demand. So this is going to be a big field moving forward. But what are some of the career options that you're seeing coming up for our graduates?
So something that is emerging are opportunities in criminal justice. We have corrections up there, but we have opportunities in criminal justice. But what you see up on the screen is just some of the options that you might have for an MSW. So basically, you come into this program with an interest. You tell us what that interest is, and by the way, Professor Carson is by far, in all my years, and I'm not going to tell you how many years I've been doing this, the best field director I've ever worked with, and she will work very hard to place you in a field experience that, number one, that you're interested in having and that you will learn and you will grow from. But you might discover that there's something that you did for field. I'm working with a student right now, had no idea that they would really enjoy doing what they're doing, and they're absolutely loving their field experience and thinking about going into what they're doing. So that's the beauty, and that's what's so great about the field experience is we might come into this thinking we know absolutely what we want, but we might surprise ourselves.
Well, and so one of my questions then for Dr. Lucavece and Professor Carson is, as you look at this and students maybe saying, well, I can get a job with just my current BSW or my undergraduate degree. Why would I want to do the advanced degree in social work? Why the MSW? What options may be unlocked by having the MSW?
Wow, we don't have that much time. But in generally speaking, you're always better off with a graduate degree versus just an undergraduate degree, and the same would apply for a master's in social work when it comes to diversified job opportunities, promotion opportunities, and really learning opportunities. The advanced degree will prepares you to work independently, versus the bachelor's degree gives you a solid understanding and solid learning experience, but you're considered a technician, whereas at the graduate level you're considered an expert. You're qualified to work independently. So I would say that that's one of the biggest differences. The licensure, it's very appealing. The MSW license is often coveted by even government jobs, and probably shouldn't have said that now, but government jobs, typically even consultants. At one point in my career, I had looked at joining the Navy as a clinical social worker. I was actually recruited by the Navy to be a clinical social worker, not to carry weapons and not to serve on a submarine, but to work with our veterans. And that was really an exciting time in my life. So things that I wouldn't have been able to do without the graduate degree, being a supervisor, providing clinical supervision, all those things that graduate degree that shows that, yes, I'm an independent thinker, and I am prepared to work in these different areas of social work.
No, that's a great point. Thank you for sharing that. And then the job outlook.
It's high, and everything that is on this, all three bullets on here remain unchanged. The demand continues to grow. There are more jobs than there are people to fill them right now, depending on what type of social work you want to be in. But I know from talking with employers all across the state, there just are not enough people to fill those positions, and employers are often forced to hire people that don't have the background and training to provide social services in a quality way. So you're certainly not going to struggle to find a position. That average salary hasn't changed. I double checked before we logged on. It varies depending on what type of what your practice area is, and what your job is. If you're entry level versus you've been in the field for a little while, or you're an administrator. But average salary with an MSW is 60,000. Back to the question that was asked a little bit ago, that average salary for somebody with a BSW is considerably lower than that. So yeah, there's not an issue with job outlook.
And I want to just add, also, once you move to full getting your license, that salary will also potentially increase. But one thing I want to add is we're housed with criminal justice in our department, and we do get requests for jobs from people in the field saying we need students. Are they graduating? We need people. So yes, their lack of job is not going to be something that you will experience with an MSW.
No, it seems to be a good investment in just about every way. And then some of our recent alumni, again, where are they working? What are they doing? I know our program has produced a lot of great social workers. So where have they gone?
I want to focus on the Geisinger one. The care manager, he works for the pediatric unit.
No, pediatric one's listed on there.
Oh, okay. I need to look at that better. Yes. Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
That to me says something about our program. I mean, this is Geisinger and working with children, and they're only going to hire the best. And he was one of our undergrads, and then he went through grad school and worked so very hard. So these are just some of the, and he got the job before he even graduated. He interviewed in his last semester of our MSW program. So that I just wanted to give a personal, just a personal touch to that position in particular.
Sarah, who's in the photograph right there, she actually is living up in New England now and has a clinical position. And she just got her license. We have another student that moved to Colorado shortly after graduating and is working in a neuropsych program. So we have students, we have alumni now all over the country. We have one of our recent alums is up in New York State, which is actually where he's from, in a clinical position. So, and then a lot of these are more local to Bloomsburg, but we've had students and alums go on to a lot of really interesting positions. So, and we're excited to see that list grow.
Yep, absolutely. Then the fun stuff, the application and the admission process. Dr. Lucavece, Professor Carson, what are you looking for in a qualified application?
So I've seen some questions in the Q&A regarding application. If you are in your last semester, should you wait until you graduate? No, you can apply now. But when you do apply, just depending on where you're, if you're not from the state school system, you have to put at least submit some your official transcripts in that slot, or the system won't let you move. And that's if Rachel were here, she's works with you, Tom. But
yes.
That's something I've learned doing this, that you can't leave those folders empty. But absolutely. Or the other concern I saw is my GPA is not high enough. Should I apply to the generalist? I would say no. I would say, again, I'll reiterate, we look at the person as a whole. So if let's just say you went to undergrad, I don't know, 10 years ago, and maybe you weren't the most focused student, but now you are. We want to hear that on your application statement. So believe it or not, we really read those essays. And I know that I go through them with a fine-tooth comb, and I know Professor Carson does too. We read those, and we're looking for those, and that's the place to address that. If let's just say you're at a 2.8, that's the place to address, maybe why the GPA isn't where it should be, but what makes you qualified, and what makes you believe that absolutely I can do this. I was a 2.8, but now I can absolutely do this work. That's what we want to hear. So that's why we read all of this. We're looking at your resume. We're looking at your letters of recommendation. So please, I encourage you to apply, even if you're not at the GPA that we're asking for. That doesn't, I should say, it doesn't mean that, you'll get in, but we've also accepted students with provisional status in the advance. We've done that where we believe that the student absolutely demonstrated potential, but we wanted to see how they did their first semester, and for the most part, students do deliver. So absolutely apply.
Yeah, and I think that the resume, the goal statement, the letters of rec, they can help address the parts of the applicant that are not going to be indicated on a transcript, right? And Dr. Lucabeche and Professor Carson, I would imagine you would agree with this. You conduct a holistic admission review, so the transcripts, the GPA, the coursework are all extremely valuable and very important in a crucial part of your decision-making process. But the other items are also important as well. The application itself shouldn't take more than 10 or 15 minutes. And Dr. Lucabeche was referring to Chelsea and myself's colleague, Rachel, who manages our technical operations in the office, and she does tremendous work. So excellent. So that gets us to the open Q&A. And I know there are a lot of great questions here that have been in the Q&A here. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my share. And we can start to get to the questions. And thank you everybody for your patience there. First question here is for the field experience portion. Would I be able to work in my current position that I am in now, especially if I work as a children and youth caseworker? Great question.
So if your agency is open to that, yes. I do currently have a generalist year student who does work in a county child welfare agency, and she is doing employment-based field. But again, that is going to depend on your agency, your supervisor, whether they're open to that.
Right. And I saw Dr. Lucabeche that you had already responded to this, but just in case anyone else is wondering, is it possible to do the entire program virtually?
Yes, it is possible to do the entire program virtually.
Let's see here. If we apply to take summer courses, are we only able to take electives, or are there foundation classes to take?
Yeah, no, the summer option are just electives as we start. In this summer, we're offering 2 electives.
What day is the once a class week? Once a week class. Sorry.
I believe that's the research class. That's the only blended hybrid class that we have, I believe.
Okay.
So here's the deal. It depends on if you're in advanced, your classes are going to be Tuesday, Thursday, but if they're blended, that doesn't mean you're going to have to meet for class every Tuesday, Thursday. And if you're generalist, classes are Monday, Wednesday. That much I can tell you. Without seeing which specific class you're asking about, I can't tell you. But generally that's how, and keeping in mind that the only class right now that's slotted for blended hybrid is the research class. The others are mixed remote, and you will know, as I mentioned earlier, you will know in advance which days you'll meet asynchronously and which days you'll meet synchronously. But it will either be a Monday, Wednesday, or a Tuesday, Thursday.
Okay. Once the classes are fully online, will they be asynchronous, and will they be offered in the evening?
So I'm glad someone asked that question, because one of the things that we have taken great efforts to do is really conceptualize online learning. We I think did an outstanding job delivering content face to face, and that's not going to change online. So we're working very hard in developing what these courses will look like online. So the short answer is they're not all going to be asynchronous. They're most likely going to be mixed remote. And but that doesn't mean that you might not have a course that will be all asynchronous, but it's not going to be the type of asynchronous course where you're just responding to a chat or you're looking at PowerPoint videos. One of the examples I gave you earlier about an assignment that I created for this week for my class is I met with them last night and I showed them the videos that cover the theories, but now they're going to do a podcast of their theories. That's the asynchronous component where we really want students to be engaged with the material. And we work very hard, because if you want to have a good online program, you have to have faculty that work very hard to make it good. And that's the faculty that we have.
I agree. Does the field experience count as a clinical, and how does that work?
I saw that question and I wasn't really quite sure what that meant.
Okay.
So if the person who asked it can elaborate, I'm happy to answer, but maybe go on to another question so that I can better understand what that means.
Yes. For a student who graduated with their BSW in 2009, can they still apply for the advanced standing? So you're shaking your head, yes. Okay.
Yes.
Would a person who's working full-time need to leave their job for the internship just due to the number of hours? And I see Professor Carson, you had already responded, but just in case you have something else to elaborate on.
Yeah, I would be interested to know, and I'm saying this in general, not to the specific person that asked the question, what the job was, because if it is something that is related, it may be that we could explore, you know, an employment-based option. If it is something that is completely unrelated, I'm not going to tell anybody to quit their job. I will say between classes and field placement, if you were choosing to go full-time in the program, it would be very difficult. We do allow students to do part-time, so that might be a better option for somebody who's working in, say, a bank or in a position that is in something outside of human services. You know, part-time might be a better option to be able to fit that in. But I'm happy to have, you know, an offline conversation with anybody that has specific questions about their own circumstances.
Thank you. Can a student do the advanced standing and the certificate for school social work together, and how would that impact their academic journey? That is a great question.
Well, I'll take that one, and Dr. Lucavece can chime in. We are not fully approved to do that certificate program yet. We are working on it within our college because we are in the college that also has education. But there is a process, and there also is a full application that we have to go through with the Pennsylvania Department of Education. And frankly, right now with doing the shift or substantive change, like there's kind of an order for us to get things done, but that is on our list. We have had that conversation. We have started that dialogue with the dean of our college to be able to put that together. So to answer the specific question, it would be part of the program for a student who was looking to do that. That would be your electives. And the Department of Education requires that your field placement be done in an education setting. So it wouldn't impact your program overall. It's not additional coursework because the number of electives that you would have would fit right into to what PDE requires.
And how soon should a student who is getting ready to complete their bachelor's degree in what I would assume is this upcoming May, when should they be applying for the MSW program?
Start applying now. Absolutely. If you want to start, whether you want to start in fall or summer, takes summer electives, I would apply now, because one of the things that we are doing is this cohort, our generalist cohort, we're aiming to have just 10 and our advanced 15. Not that we wouldn't accept more, but we really want these the classes to remain at a certain size to have that interaction, that faculty student interaction. So I would encourage you to apply now. You won't regret it.
Yep. The application for the summer and the fall is currently open right now. And just to clarify, you do not have to have your bachelor's degree in hand in order to start applying. I would say a lot of our students who are completing, or really a lot of our students who are applying, are currently seniors in college right now finishing their bachelor's degree. So,
yeah, and that's when we would do that provisional acceptance as well. So we would, you know, since you're applying and you don't have your bachelor's degree, there would be a provisional acceptance contingent upon getting your bachelor's degree in May. So if that makes sense. So, but absolutely apply.
yes. If you feel like the advanced standing is too much or too intense, are you able to switch to the traditional track?
So I guess that depends. Let me answer this way, and then if the person that asked that question, feel free to contact me. The advanced standing is not harder. And I've spoken to some of our own students in the BSW that wanted to apply to the generals because they thought advanced standing was harder. It's not harder, it's just different coursework. And what the generalist year does, it prepares you, it gives, if you don't have that social work background, it gives you that foundation. So the advanced standing, it's not that the coursework is harder, it's just that you've been prepared to do that other coursework in your undergraduate studies. So believe me, I've taught in both programs, and the rigor that I expect it's the same, and my colleagues, it is the same. So the coursework, I think the term advanced might be a little bit misleading, and it implies that it's harder, but it's just that those students, because they have a BSW, do not have to do the foundation courses because they've already done them in their undergraduate program.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Yes, that is a good point. Has it been common for alumni to get their LCSW license following graduation from the program?
So licensure is in Pennsylvania is it's the LSW, and then 3 years from the LSW to the LCSW from the time you graduate, because the LCSW that requires supervision, and it requires those 3 years postmasters of training and supervision under an MSW or somebody that I think 1 year. I know when I took it, it was 1 year. I was able to get a psychologist to sign off, in 2 years an MSW. So it depends on that.
So to add to that, because our accreditation we were accredited in July. Previous alumni were not permitted to take that LSW exam until we were accredited. So our first group of licensed social workers didn't happen until after July of 2024. So nobody from our program has gotten an LCSW yet because not enough time has passed for them to do that. We do have alums who have achieved their LSW already and will start working toward that LCSW.
They will get that LCSW.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
if that's what they want.
Yes, if that's what they want, that's true, because they're also, I think I mentioned this earlier, I've been getting quite a few verifications, and so in our current graduating class, we have a few students that are going to sit for the licensure exam now. They're intending to sit for it. So I've had to fill out paperwork verifying that their graduation date and so on. So as Professor Carson stated, absolutely, we have we don't have LCSW because of the time we got accredited, but we do have quite a few LSWs, and if that's what they choose to pursue the LCSW, I'm sure, no doubt, that these students will achieve that.
I do want to additionally comment. I saw there was another question about the 900 hours in field, whether that applied to the licensure, and the answer to that is no, because you are not eligible to actually earn your license until after you graduate. So even though you can take the exam while you're still in the program, the license does not come until you officially have that MSW, and then that process toward LCSW can start. So the 900 hours is part of your education only, and that's required by the accrediting body.
And those rules for licensing are stipulated by the Pennsylvania Licensing Board, not by our educational. I know it seems complicated. A lot of people are making a lot of rules, but the licensing process is actually quite separate from our accreditation process.
You're muted, Tom.
Absolutely rookie mistake on my part. Sorry about that. Who should the letters of recommendation come from? That is a good question that we get often.
That is an excellent question, and we do look at these too. Definitely, we do ask for, in the advance, we ask for academic, and I think we ask for academic for both. An employer, we're looking at employer recommendations always look good, and the third, not personal. So it shouldn't be your best friend. It shouldn't be maybe it could be personal to the extent that maybe you volunteered with somebody, did some sort of community service.
For advanced standing, one of them does need to be from somebody related to your field placement, either your field faculty or your field supervisor. So when you are submitting letters, make sure that you have that one covered. And that's an important one to not forget.
It's a good one. How competitive is the program admission? What's the likelihood of gaining admission, and would you recommend that students apply to other institutions as a backup?
You can apply to other institutions if they're not, because they're not as good as us. We are, I cannot, I was just talking to a friend of mine, came by to visit me today, and she's been a social worker for like 25 years. And I told her that one of the reasons I can do this job is because I absolutely believe in our program, and I couldn't sit before you or even with my colleagues and recommend this program. And it is a great program. But to give you the acceptance rate there, we don't do it on just one metric. That's why throughout the whole evening we've been saying to you, don't let that GPA dissuade you, because we really are looking. We have had excellent students graduate that maybe when they applied didn't have a 3.0, and then they were just superstars when they went through the program. So I would just say to you that I mean, yes, I can't tell. I was joking. I know we're being recorded. I was joking when I was saying, no, don't apply to other places. But what I am saying is, what are you looking for in a master's degree? Are you looking for a great learning experience? I mean, and that quality matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Lucabeche, I share your sentiment. I think our program is also the best. I may be a little bit biased, hard to tell, but I think ours is the best. What's the likelihood that the advanced standing program reaches the limit, and therefore would prevent other students from applying?
God, I hope that happens, because then we have to hire more people. Then you know what? Whoever asked that question, have at it. Let's do it, because that means we'll just hire more people.
Yeah, I would, and that's a great question. I would really think because this kind of dovetails nicely with the previous question too about the program admission and what we're looking for in good candidates. And really it's dictated by the quality of the applicants. Like, I don't know, Dr. Lucabeche, you probably don't have a number in mind, like, man, we got to hit this number. It's probably more about like, well, how many qualified applicants are there? And if there's a lot, we're gonna have a big incoming class. I would imagine that's probably part of it. I would tell you though, the earlier you apply, the better. Again, the application for the summer and the fall is open right now. So if you're considering the summer of 25 or the fall of 25, I would recommend applying now. But again, I feel like a lot of those questions, again, and it's tough because every year is going to be different, you know, but it's really probably dictated by the quality of applicants. And typically every year there's a lot of good students that apply, which is good. The world needs more good social workers. So that's good news. If a student applied for the fall of 2025, should they wait until they formally have been admitted in order to apply for financial aid, or should they do that now? I actually think that's one I can help with, believe it or not.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, you should be able to apply for financial aid now. In fact, if you're already looking at graduate school, that's something I would probably do sooner rather than later. Again, similar to the application process, the earlier you apply for financial aid, the better. It just gives you more concrete information to be able to move forward with. Gives you time to be able to ask questions or make adjustments as needed, but you are able to start applying for financial aid right now, prior to getting admission. For students who's applying for the summer session, when is the application due?
I had that date written down. It's, I believe, 3 weeks before summer session starts. Because Rachel and I talked about that. I believe it's 3 weeks before summer session starts, and summer session starts May 26th, I believe. I should know that because I am teaching. So yes, that's a really good guess. It's a really good guess. So 3 weeks before summer session, and summer session, I believe, starts May 26th. But because we're looking at acceptance, and I think I know that's why we set it for 3 weeks, because we need time for the admissions committee to look at and read all the application materials. So we can't really go much further out than the 3 weeks before the start date.
Yes, that is a great question. After a student reaches their 900 hours, would they be able to take the exam for their LCSW, or does that come from additional hours outside of the 900?
Yeah, I think that's one I already answered. The 900 hours of field placement as part of the academic process that is required by every MSW program. Those hours, which are pre-MSW, don't go toward any type of licensure. That's part of the academic program.
And just to clarify from the previous question, I see here that the application deadline for the summer is May 5th.
It's 3 weeks before the start of the summer semester. Yep. Thank you, Tom.
You were correct. Yep. Let's see. When is the deadline for applications? I think we just talked about this. And how long does it normally take to receive a decision or an admission decision?
We're pretty quick. If you submit all your materials, our turnaround is actually pretty good. Because Rachel sends it to me, then I send it to the committee. We're actually not that slow. I'd say from the time you apply, 2 to 3 weeks, unless, I mean, again, I don't want to speak, I'm generalizing everyone. So, unless there's something missing, or unless, the admissions committee comes back and says, hey, can you provide us with a letter from your employer? We noticed that there wasn't, barring that everything is the way it should be, it takes anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks.
I would add to that, make sure that whoever you are asking to do your recommendations, make sure that they are going to respond to those, because I would say a
Yes.
lot of applications are held up because you're missing one recommendation letter. So just make sure that you're asking people that are going to respond for you. And the other thing, please make sure, and Dr. Lukovic, you may have mentioned this at the beginning, but it's been an hour now, so I don't know. When you are writing your essay, please make sure you are replying to the specific prompts that we request. It is not a general essay. There are specific prompts that are requested related to social work, and those prompts are on the application website. But if you're applying to other programs, or you're applying to like a psych program and an MSW program, that application essay for us, your goal statement, does have very specific prompts that you need to address.
That's an excellent point, because we are professors and we're looking to see if you follow the instructions. And there are 6 prompts, so all 6 have to be addressed. You are evaluated based on addressing those prompts, but that is a really good point, that if you are applying to multiple programs, make sure that you answer our prompts. Yes.
Those prompts are on the program website as well, in case you're wondering what they are. Yep. After finishing my BSW in the fall, should I wait to apply for the summer of 2026? Yeah, I think essentially the question is, when's the next semester that students that we would be accepting applications for the MSW program. So the next semester would be the summer of 2026. That makes sense. Let's see. I think that is it. Some of the other questions here are specific, and I will follow up in the chat. Tremendous questions, though. Honestly, I think anyone who's watching the recording will benefit from the questions that the group has asked tonight.
Can I offer something I just learned this week?
Oh,
By the way,
no,
I'm
please do,
sorry.
yeah.
Transcripts. Quickly, transcripts. If you are a Lock Haven, Mansfield, or Bloomsburg student, when you apply, you do not have to resubmit your transcripts. Just make sure you indicate on the admissions that you give us permission to access your transcripts. You'll get prompts. You'll get I think 3 questions, Rachel was telling me. Chelsea, you're nodding your head. So
Yeah,
that's a really good benefit, by the way.
You have to make sure you check that box, though, or else we do not know that you have to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and yep, you're absolutely correct. And that is a great reminder. And I think Professor Carson's point as well about the letters of recommendation, oftentimes that's normally the last part we're normally waiting for Chelsea and I. So that is really important as well, is asking for prompt follow-up. Is it possible to find out when the summer program starts? Is it the first session in May or the second session in July?
First session.
First session. Great. To clarify, if we are a fall December 2025 graduate, we cannot get accepted into the program until December of 2026.
No. If they're graduating, if I understand that question correctly, graduating December of 2025, there's no reason why they couldn't apply then for even for summer of 2026. You wouldn't have to wait until December. Yeah, it's summer of 2026. I'm sorry, I had to think about the years in my head.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you. And one more thing, and I know we're clocking in at well over an hour here. The topic of graduate assistantships has come up before, or GAs, as you may hear it referred to as. Those are part-time positions on campus, where you would be a part-time employee of the university, anywhere between 5 and 20 hours. And in return, you would get a small stipend, and you would get tuition remission for a certain number of credits each semester. As an MSW graduate student, you're not really limited to any one department. For instance, you can be a GA in a number of different departments on campus. You're not limited to just the social work department. You could be a graduate assistant in housing. You could be a graduate assistant in admissions. There's a number of these positions, across the university. They are great positions to have. I would recommend, if you're looking at summer or fall of 2025 admission, now's a good time to start to check our website to be able to see what positions are available. Professor Clarkson, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so we have GA positions in social work. They across the university have been a little bit more limited in recent years than when we started, but we still have them for fall of 2025. We also had the option this year to shift some of those positions to scholarships. And as students apply for the MSW program, we will provide that information. Additionally, we actually currently have a student who has a GA position in housing. We've had students have actual employment in Res Life, currently have one of those. We also had a student do a GA position with disability services in the past, and she was able to use that for her field placement as well. So if you're doing something as a GA that is relevant to social work, that GA position can also count as part of or all of, depending on how many hours it is, the field placement. We had a student last year who was working with another professor in exceptionalities and was able to incorporate that into her field placement and actually presented at a statewide conference with that professor. So absolutely look at what GA positions are available. It is a great way to help fund your education and also can count toward that.
Yes, and right now, if you're checking our GA position website, you may only see a couple right now. There will be a lot more that will get posted as the spring semester goes on. A lot more. We have again a great question here for a student who's confused on the difference between the LSW and the LCSW. How many hours do they need after getting their MSW to get the LSW? And how many hours after that do I need to get the LCSW? Is it possible to get a couple more acronyms in there for the social work?
Yeah, oh
in
my God,
general?
and some states have the LICSW. So
I don't understand what is there to be confused about. Makes perfect sense, right?
the LSW stands for the licensed social worker, and that you would take the exam. Like I said, you could apply your last semester, and there aren't any hours of clinical hours required for that. The LCSW is the one that requires 3,000 supervision and 3,000 clinical hours, I believe, post masters. So let's just say you graduate in May, you can start your clock come May for that LCSW, and that one is also by exam. And that is not something that we define. That is something that the state licensing board sets forth. To give you an idea, this is how old I am. I was the first, and I was in the group in Pennsylvania, the first group to test to sit for the LCSW exam when they offered it by exam. And I still had to wait 3 years afterward to get that LCSW. The 3 years is stipulated by the licensing board. So some folks may want to get the LSW, judging from the number of students that are applying that are currently in our program, they're opting to get that LSW until they're able to sit for the LCSW.
I would also recommend, if you have more questions on licensing, looking at the NASW website. There is a whole section on there about licensing. It is far easier to read it on that than it is to go to the Bureau of Professional and Occupational Affairs and go through their whole thing with the state. So go to NASW's website, look at licensing. There's all kinds of resources on there, but it gets confusing. So I understand that.
Yeah, and that is, again, whoever asked that question, I'm glad you asked. That's a great question. I'm sure many other people are probably confused about that as well. I know we have a question here about, are GA positions only available on the Bloomsburg campus? They're open, or they are available on all of our Commonwealth campuses. That would be Bloomsburg, Lock Haven, and Mansfield.
They're everywhere. Mm-hmm.
They're everywhere. That's right. Yes. Yes. Let's see here. And I see there's a question here about the letters of recommendation. We are waiting for a third letter of recommendation to be submitted. Yeah, so again, it's a great question. It's basically can she be reviewed for admission prior to the third letter of recommendation being submitted?
No, so the way that works is, so your application is in a queue, and it won't, I won't see it until it's complete. And I guess I could go searching for it if I wanted to, but it's not considered complete. So if you are waiting on, and I see Chelsea's nodding her head, if you are waiting on a letter of recommendation, reach out to, and I'm glad Professor Carson brought this up, reach out to that person, because something like a letter of recommendation can absolutely hold up your application.
Well, the situation that the student that asked was a unique one. But your answer stands. I am sorry that the person who asked the question had the experience that they did. Just encourage that new person to submit as soon as possible. Tom, will it allow her to submit one if there was already a different person's name listed? It will.
Yeah, and I was just going to bring that up, Professor
Okay.
Carson. Thank you for asking. Yes, so if you had, like, let's say you've already added three recommenders there to your application, and you decide, or you need to make a change, that's very easy to do. In fact, at this point, what might be easiest is to just email it. You can have the recommender either reach out to Chelsea or I directly, and we can get that uploaded to their application materials.
I appreciate that. I had not seen the question. I was just answering what you had said, but I appreciate that. So to contact you directly.
Yes, we can very, in honest, that is, we end up changing recommenders often, so that's a normal occurrence for sure. These are tremendous questions. I thought we might come in at 30 or 40 minutes, and we're at about double that, but honestly, it was a great discussion. There were so many good questions from the audience. Again, thank you for your participation. Again, anyone who's watching the on demand version, I think will benefit from the quality of the questions that this group has asked. If you have any questions in the future, please don't hesitate to contact anyone on this session tonight. We work for you, and we're certainly happy to do so. Dr. Luca Becce, Professor Carson, Chelsea, do you guys have any parting advice before we end the event?
Yeah, please feel free to contact me. I'm happy to meet with you. I have already met with some of you. It could be a phone conversation. It could be Zoom, and anything that we can do to help you to make this decision. This is a big decision, and despite my joking, I understand it's a big decision, and we want you to be sure. So please feel free to contact me, and I do invite you all to apply. I really do. Thank you for hosting us. Thank you for listening to us, and for attending. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I echo all of that. And if you have specific questions about field, feel free to reach out to me as well.
And before I forget, I wanted to tease the next event. There is a alumni panel discussion coming up on, let's see, Thursday, April 17th, with a handful of our most recent MSW alumni. It should be a great opportunity to, learn more about the program from the perspective of a student and a recent alumni, to talk about what their transition process was like, not only from their undergrad degree into the master's, but from the master's into the workforce. So certainly should be a great opportunity. I dropped the registration link in the chat, so if anyone is interested, and also that will be updated on the MSW website. Chelsea, did you have any final parting advice before we sign off?
I look forward to seeing all of your applications come through. If you need any help getting through the application process, just send me an email and I'm more than happy to help.
Yes, thank you. So again, thank you, everybody. We appreciate your time. We hope you have a great night, and we look forward to hearing from you in the future.